Hello survivors! In this video I want to show you some examples, items, tactical features that have to come from the forest to Sons of the Forest. Well, let's jump to it. First thing that it's good to come from the forest to Sons of the Forest, it is crocodiles. Until this time in Sons of the Forest we haven't any wild animals, and also in the original version we had crocodiles, and also if we had these three wild animals we will have three type enemy in Sons of the Forest. And because in Sons of the Forest AI improved, we will have three type enemies that they can attack together. And also it's good to we had these crocodiles in some regions, for example in Goldfield, I don't know, but this can separate some region compared to another region, and that can be so good in Sons of the Forest maps. Another thing that have to come from the forest to Sons of the Forest, it is hammer sign for buildings under constructions, because that can be so good in Sons of the Forest. Actually, if you make blueprints and if you just take little distance from that structure, you will lose that building under constructions, and actually this is not good. And in the futures, it's good to devs add this old feature that exists in the forest. And another important thing that we had in the forest was stats. Actually in the Sons of the Forest, why we hadn't this important feature and why we can't see our sanity, strength, weight, currently feeling, conditions, feelness, armor, cold armor, steals, all of this it's necessary in Sons of the Forest, because stats it's so important for players in Sons of the Forest. No, another thing that we extremely need this feature in Sons of the Forest from the forest, it is Todo, or we can say some purpose that we can read it on our survival book, because in the forest that was so good. You had some purpose, for example finding Dreamy, set up a camp, explore some caves, some purpose that we have to do it. But in Sons of the Forest we just have a find Puffton family, blah blah blah. This is not good actually. After you finding something completely will not have any purpose in Sons of the Forest, and this is not good. So this purpose and this todo have to come in Sons of the Forest. For example, finding Dreamy, exploring some caves, finding key cards, in addition finding Puffton family. And actually this really makes the player have a sense of purpose in the game, and that can be so good. Another thing that have to come from the forest to Sons of the Forest, it is a trap that we had in the forest, and that was new trap, and that trap was so fun in the forest, because when cannibals walking on these traps, their feet will stuck to the traps and they were stuck hanging, and that was so fun. And if we have this trap also in Sons of the Forest, that can be so good, because cannibals can stuck in this trap when they are alive, and you can do anything with cannibals for scaring another cannibal. Oh, and another thing that have to come very sooner in Sons of the Forest, it is bone fences. Actually, why we hadn't these fences in Sons of the Forest? This can be so good. And all of we had lots of bones in our stretches, and if bone fences add in Sons of the Forest, we will use all of that bones, and that can be so good. Also, if we build some wall bones, some bone fences, bone roofs, window bones, anything that we can use with bones, that can be so good in Sons of the Forest. And why we doesn't have this feature that we had in the forest, and it's good too they add these fences in update 1, that can be so good. And also in the forest we had a arrow basket, and that was so good because on that time we was available to store our arrows. After that finding another arrows and making another stone arrows, and after that we was available to store that arrows, and that was so good because we have 3 type arrows, also more type arrows like fire arrows, and poison arrows. I don't want to example all of that. Arrow baskets, it's necessary. The best thing that we had in the forest was bonfire. Every time I was worked for cutting trees, gathering some sticks. Before that, I was build these bonfires because that will light up entire nearby area, and that was so good. And that can be perfect for Sons of the Forest too, because we hadn't enough lights in Sons of the Forest, and you have to make lots of torches, lots of skull lamp. And why we hadn't this bonfire that can produce lots of lights, you can feel safety on that region. This is so necessary, and it's good to have these features even in update 1. And the next things that many players, including Farket, are very upset about this matter, it is not having enough blueprints in Sons of the Forest. And it's good too, we have these features to making more blueprints from our survival books. And also, if N-Night add a feature to copy and paste some blueprints and building plan that we have in our camp, and also that can be so good and useful for Sons of the Forest, because why we builded blueprints in our save, and why we have to place another logs and do that same thing again with that animations in Sons of the Forest. And it's good to devs add a feature that we can copy and paste our blueprints in our survival books, and that can be so good. For example, some bridge, some houses, some tower, anything that you build it in Sons of the Forest, that can be so useful. And some players are so angry for not having this feature, because in the forest all of building systems was based on just blueprints, and it's good to we have that plans, that building plans in Sons of the Forest. And another thing that it's good to we have it from the forest in Sons of the Forest, it is Cowman. Actually, I was called this mutant like Bigfoot. Actually, they wasn't Bigfoot, but I was called this fucking mutants Bigfoot. But actually, they are common. They was so annoying. Not as annoying like after seeing this mutant and you just press Alt F4 and exiting your game. Not like that. They was so dangerous, and when they attacked your bases, they had the ability to destroy everything. And why we hadn't this mutant in Sons of the Forest, or like this mutant in Sons of the Forest to destroy everything, and also that be so fast like these comments, because they are so fast when they are running, you can't even dodge. And in general, it's good to baby mutants grow and they turn to these comments that can be better actually, like the forest. But tell in the comments this mutant is good for Sons of the Forest or not. Also, we had another thing that was covered in blood. It will be better to have this effect in Sons of the Forest too. And also, cannibals find us so easily compared to we hadn't this bloody effect. That can be so good. And another thing that we needed in Sons of the Forest from the forest, it is more gore in caves, more bloody caves, and that can make like these survival games, survival horror. And also another thing that have to do it with cannibals, it is they have to increase cannibal speed, because cannibals in Sons of the Forest, it's like they are running slow motion. That is not good actually. It's good to they increase their speed, and that can make that cannibals scarier, that can improve their skill in Sons of the Forest. And it is still much better if their appearance be more wild and scary. If there is anything left for me to say about this topic, please tell me your thoughts in the comment section. There is definitely something that you liked from the forest to be added to Sons of the Forest. So don't be shy and write your thoughts. And also don't forget to like this video. Love you so much, and farewell.